Hi guys, I'm Mrs. LaRue. I teach geometry and algebra 2 at Norman North. I know y'all are getting ready for your stained glass project, and so we wanted to show you a little bit of real stained glass. So let me show you that today. We've basically got 4 steps. We're gonna cut the glass, we're gonna grind it, we'll foil it, and then we'll solder it. Now there are a couple of things I've already done. I've already made a little template on the computer, and I have cut out the little stickers that I'm going to use to cut the glass. Today we're going to make a little Triforce design from The Legends of Zelda. So we have basically 4 equilateral triangles. I've already cut the first 3, so let's get into cutting the last one. All right, so we've got 2 different colors of stained glass for this project. I've already cut one out of this clear one. It's only blue because of the sticker that I printed. But this one will be the middle triangle in the Triforce design. And then I've already cut 2 out of the white one. So I really just have to cut 1 more of the equilateral triangles. And I'm gonna do that here. So I'll take this little sticker that I've printed out, and I'm gonna line it up with the edge of this glass. I kind of want to place it so that whenever I cut this off, I have the most amount of glass that I can still left together for other projects. So I'll place that there. And then I'm gonna go in with this scoring tool. So this is basically just like a little rotary with a sharp, I mean, it's not sharp, it won't cut you, but it's just like a little edge there. And I'll line it up with the sticker and then just use some even pressure to cut it. And I'll show you that in a second. All right, I'm now gonna take this scoring tool. I'm gonna line it up right next to the sticker, press down, and with even weight, I'm gonna go all the way to the edge. So I'll do that. So that just scored the glass. Now I can come in with this other tool. This is like a little plier situation. It makes a little frowny face. That's how you know you're doing it right. Not a happy face, a frowny face. And then I'll take this line that's printed up here and I'll put that on the score line that I made with the other tool. And then just gently press down. And then that piece of glass comes away from the others. All right, we've cut it away from the large piece of glass, but we still have this other little piece of glass here that we don't want with our triangle. So I'm gonna score it and plier it again. Sometimes the score line isn't enough to take this piece of glass off, so I like to just hit it against the pliers a little bit, and that just tends to loosen it up so it's a little bit easier to take off. Then I'll line up that little line and press down, and now we have our other triangle that we can now join with the rest of our Triforce. Now the next step, we'll be grinding these down so they fit together perfectly. All right, after cutting the glass, now we have to grind down the sides. Not only does this make it so that the glass only goes perfectly like where the sticker is and everything fits together really well, but it also roughens down the sides, which will be helpful for our next step. Now for this one, since we're grinding glass and glass dust will be up in the sky, I do need some safety equipment. So I have a little mask, some gloves just to make sure I don't cut my fingers, and some goggles so that the glass dust doesn't come into my eyes. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the little glass pieces, each one at a time. I'm gonna put it on here, turn on the machine, and then grind it down almost like you would sand wood or something. It'll make the edges super rough, and it'll also make them perfectly fit together. All right, now that all of the pieces fit together well, the next step is just to take off the little stickers and then wash them in some soapy water to make sure that there's no more glass dust on them or anything, to make sure they're super clean for the next step, which is putting on the little copper foil. So I'm taking off the sticker, dipping it into some soapy water, and then just making sure it's super dry. All right, next step is to put copper foil around every piece of glass. I've already done it here. You can see it's like this copper color. Now, the next step after this is to solder these pieces together. So we're basically going to melt metal, and that's what's going to stick these together to become one big piece of stained glass. But the melted metal won't stick to the glass. So that's why we have to put this on. This is basically just like tape, but the tape has metal on the outside. It has copper on the outside. So basically we just cut off a little bit of this, we wrap it around the edges and smooth it down. Let me show you how to do that. All right, we first want to measure how much tape we need. So I'm gonna take this equilateral triangle and I'm gonna run this copper foil around the perimeter of it. We need about that much, so then I'll just rip that off. And then I'll take off the back of this to expose the adhesive side. Sometimes this can be tricky. But I won't pull the whole thing off yet. I'm just gonna pull off a little bit. And I'm gonna try to get the glass as close to the middle of this tape as I can. So I just kind of like to eyeball the first part, and it makes the last part easier. That's about middle, so I'll stick that down. And then I'm gonna open up a little bit more tape and try to find the middle again. Open up a little bit more tape. Try to find the middle again. And then finish it out at the end here, trying to line it up perfectly with the beginning. Now that it's all the way around, I just like to smooth it with my fingers a little bit. Press it down so that it's flat against the glass. And then there's this handy dandy little tool here that has all different sorts of angles to it that'll help kind of smooth down some of the pointier pieces here. Then we'll also run it around the sides to make sure that adhesive is really adhering to the glass. Once you do that, and all of them, we can go on to soldering. All right, next step is the last step, and that is to solder together these glass pieces that we've prepared. Now this can be the scariest step just because we're dealing with some equipment and some materials that are a little bit scary, but we'll be safe about it, we'll be okay. First thing that we have going on here, we've got some gel flux. This basically just makes it so that our metal flows really nicely and creates like really nice lines on our project. I'm gonna put that in a little crevice over here, and I'll use a paintbrush to use that gel flux and kind of brush it onto the places that we need it. I also have some solder here. This is what's actually going to melt and flow over our piece to put these pieces together. Now this is lead solder, but no need to fear. We're not heating it up to any degrees of temperature that will make it airborne or anything. So it's relatively safe there. I am still gonna wear some safety equipment. I'm still wearing the same stuff that I wore for the grinding portion. So the safety gloves, a mask, and some eyewear, just to be extra careful. I also have a fan on and some windows open so that we have some breeze coming through. And then over here, we have the actual soldering iron. So this is what you'll hold to, move it around to melt the metal. This is heated up to 400 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty hot. We've got to be careful of that. Well, let's go ahead and let's get started. And there you have it, a little Legend of Zelda Triforce emblem. I put a little jump ring at the top so I can put some ribbon in and I can use it as an ornament this Christmas. But there it is. Have fun making your own designs.